Hey guys, how's it going? It's Miyoko from Japan. Welcome back to my channel. I'm live from Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan. How are you guys doing? I'm sorry, I'm late again. Let me. Whew. My hair is wet. Fresh out of the shower. Meow. Meow. Hello. Hey. When will China allow tourists in and they allow their own people to travel everywhere but not allow foreigners in it? Really? Huh. Interesting. There must be many things that they don't want you to see. China always makes you feel that they have everything under control. But I know that people are even like rising in mainland China. They just the CCP, every time there are people that goes against the party, they just suppress them. Okay, poor Yoko, saw your tweet that you woke up late today. I hope you're feeling okay. Yes, thank you. Just I think that my sleeping cycle has been like go to bed at 4 a.m. and then wake up at noon. So that has been my pattern for for a while now. So especially because of that, it's hard. But it's better. Like the weather is warmer, and my like health condition has been way better than before. So it's easy to live now. Thank God. Hi, Yoko, and greetings from the country of the living skies. CCP claims the US preparing Japan to be the next Ukraine. The US preparing Japan to be They said that? Wow. I mean, that happened before. We were occupied by the US decades ago. And yeah. But then that ended, and then Japan, of course, we still are living under the consequences of the what we call like post-war regime. But it's amazing how the history of Japan and the US is. Don't you think it's amazing that we were like the worst enemies to each others for a while? We fought and we both killed each other like so hard, and like both are traumatized. The US side is traumatized by kamikaze and all the, and even Pearl Harbor. Like nobody expected that your enemies would come from above, from the sky to the battleships, but Japan did. So they were surprised, people died. And on the other hand, for Japan, it's like the bombing was on a daily basis, what was taking place on a daily basis in our mainland. So it's the soldiers were out in the war, so it's women and children, and so like that's very traumatizing, right? And of course the nuclear bombs and so on, like we have that. Like when you think about it, it's the worst in history, right, for both ends. But we but look at us now. We are the strongest allies, like economically and militarily and politically. Like it's like it's like you can't even verbalize that. Like it's so amazing, right? But both sides haven't forgotten our history. We just don't say to each other like, yeah, apologize. We don't say that to each other because we are mature, right? Unlike the leftists in South Korea. The leftists in South Korea means pro North Korea, and I don't know, they could be pro CCP because North Korea is the pet of CCP. But anyway, so they are the leftists, like extreme leftists in South Korea, are pro North Korea, and they push the propaganda that Japan is evil and that no matter how much Japan apologizes, we must keep like we like Japan must continue to apologize. That's what they say. They bring up issues one after another, and now they're working on the forced labor thing. But what's crazy is that our between Japan and South Korea regarding the World War II, everything ended in 1965, we had a treaty that comes with another treaty about the finance and all, like reparations, basically. So everything was solved in 1965. And then, like, in order to unite the country, South Korea, they had to go against Japan so that the people rise together, like, yeah, yeah, like Japan was bad, like we were the good country. And so that unites, the anger unites the country. So like the President Park, especially, she was good at that, but we saw it through, though, like what she was doing, like, oh, like that's, like she has to do that to unite the country, so we could see that. And then, but then that was like when Park was the president. That was when Abe was the prime minister of here, and Obama was the president of the U.S. And so Obama pushed us together. Like they forced us to get along because, the my husband is eating ice cream. Oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, say this and that. I'm like middle of a conversation. So yeah, anyway, Obama forced us to get along, but we had issues. But anyway, we had an agreement in 2015. Japan South Korea agreement, and Japan gave them 1 billion yen. Again, it should be the end, right? No, the leftists in South Korea dug up even more. Like they couldn't go on with, like they were saying, like, oh, Japan forced Korean women to work as sex slaves and blah blah blah. While the U.S. official document was saying the during the war that they were just professional prostitutes. So like there were lots of controversial things, but anyway, so like there are many problems, and they keep pushing. But conservatives in South Korea, by the way, they are changing their views, especially because, like, South Korea in general, I hear from my South Korean friend that South Korean people's like awareness is shifting, because they now dislike China. Like geographically speaking, South Korea is in such a difficult place, being right next to CCP and North Korea, and at the same time they have to care about the US and Japan, and like they're in the middle, right? So that's like they have to decide which side they should be on. But now they are realizing that they should be with us, right? So that's good. But yeah, it's crazy how things are here. Anyway, super chat, thank you so much. Rearm Japan and the Japanese people. Yes. Speaking of which, thank you so much for your super chat as always. Speaking of which, I saw a short clip of a Chinese man. I don't know, that's probably in somewhere in Africa, and there's a Chinese guy and a bunch of African men, and like they had a little conflict, and then Chinese man left once and then came back, and then he has a long stick like a sword basically for him, but then Japanese people would just use it like a sword, right, or katana, right, to kill, like, right, like a Star Wars, basically. But the Chinese guy was like, carry that, just go, like they went into the other guys. So that was interesting how, like, the tweet was saying that I saw was saying that how it's interesting that the way you use your weapon is different in depending on where you come from. Anyway, so I didn't expect to rumble at the beginning, but hello, Yoko and Hide. Hello. Okay. So what my husband came to tell me was to tell you guys about what I've been up to lately. Firstly, what should I show you? Let's start from this one. Was it? Oh yeah, this one. Okay. So that's my channel, right? Dun dun dun. So my husband and I, we protested in front of the consulate general of China in Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan. So this is our video here. Um, the crazy part of this is that we had to film this in one take and then leave immediately because even though, huh? さっき紹介したよ。Another one? Oh, another super chat. Thank you so much. Oh, Gary. That's the same name as my first boyfriend. Hey, Yoko, what do modern Japanese think of Yukio Mishima? From what I read, he was an interesting guy. Oh, yes. I've talked about him many times here, but I'll get to that. Thank you so much. Let's go back to that in a minute. Thank you so much for super chat. I really appreciate it. So it's a bit yes. So this is consulate general of China in Fukuoka Prefecture. There's an embassy in Tokyo too, but there's the consulate general. And we every time we have a protest here, in order to use like a speaker, we of course have to tell the police like, hey, we're gonna have this protest, and the time is from here and there, and there will be this many people, and we have to fill out a form to apply, and then be approved. But and even when we do things like that, they tell us not to cross the street. Like, I don't know if you can see, but there's a big road like right behind us, and then the consulate general. So like that's the other side of the road, and and even when like we can't protest in front of like right in front of the consulate general because they are afraid that we are right wings and we could possibly start a riot or something. That's what they're afraid of. And the so like but here in this case, like I'm not even using the speaker, right? I'm using my own voice yelling basically. And then but like when we film this, like we could see the police or the security or whatever like that's guarding the place, like Japanese people, they noticed and then they started to see like, hey, there are some people over there. Like we could see like what they were up to. So then I had to speak in 1 minute and then go away. Let's just leave. And that's what we have to do. It's the other side of the road. I was not even using a speaker. I was just making a video, right? That's what YouTubers do. I was just doing that. And then they don't even like it because they don't want any problems with CCP. That's crazy, right? And the Chinese embassy in Tokyo is worse. Why? Because we can only do that again, like across the street, and then so not right in front of the embassy, and then only 5 people at one time can speak up. So what happens is 5 people come in from another place and then speak, and then leave, and then come back another. Huh? Oh, Liu Hanji. Oh, Hanji, Liu Hanji さん、ありがとうございます。Great free Tibet demonstration. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, this is your face is here. Right. This is him. Oh wait, you see this here. Liu Hanjin-san. Yay! Thank you for your super chat. I really appreciate it. That looks like a lot of money. Thank you so much. Yes, I was talking about South Korea. See, there are really like-minded conservatives in South Korea too. And it's hard, especially for South Korean people. Like I've seen South Korean like professors or scholars, or I don't know what their title is, but there are people writing books about the real history of South Korea and Japan, or what it means, that like what Japan, like what like how should I say, like how Japan was like during the war and so on. And so basically, like they South Koreans in South Korea, they introduce our way of thinking, or the facts. They just align the facts, historical facts, right? And then they they get socially like oppressed, right? So like they don't have freedom of speech, so it's really tough. But like look at my friend here, like he even gives me super chat. That's very courageous. Thank you so much. I did see another super chat. Thank you. You said that there are heavenly numbers, so I'm happy. Oh yeah, angelic number. I'm happy to share them with you. Did you see that? Are okay. South Korea and Japan are strengthening ties to keep pushing PRC out of microchip manufacturing. Oh, I didn't see that exactly, but the way that I see is that we are all working together now, like on the free world side. That's my recognition. But that's good. That's good to hear. Yes. Thank you so much for super chat. Oh, I'll get back to Gary soon. But yeah, I'm glad with the super chat, so I'm gonna keep that there for a while. What else? And Sarah Carter. Wait, I misspelled her name. And Yoko Ishii should give the. Wait, it doesn't show her website. I don't know how to look for her website. But let's just look at my Twitter and see. Look at this governor, by the way. Look at that flag. That's so awful. We are all complaining. Where's Sarah's stuff? Also, why we did protest and oh my gosh, I tweet so much. Oh my gosh. Hey, so I got on the Sarah Carter show. Wait, can I? Okay. So, and the title is President Xi jails human rights activists without cause. So that's an old picture of me, but that's Sarah Carter. She has over 1.4 million followers. Fox News contributor, award-winning host, the Sarah Carter Show. And she's such an amazing friend of mine in America. And we talked about, well, I have been talking about our Mongolian friend in Mongolia. Wait, my laptop is making a noise now, so I'm gonna shut down the other window. But and this fans needs to calm down. But yeah, so I went on her show and talked about Muhebayar Cholondolj, who was arrested last year in February, on February 17th, by his own country. You know, he's a Mongolian man in Mongolia, but Mongolia is influenced by CCP, and especially because our friend Muhebayar is a activist. You know, he's a journalist and also an activist. You know, as a journalist and writer, he has received many awards, you know, very top level awards, and he's nationally famous. But he got arbitrarily arrested, and then he was he had to go through this secret court, and so the information isn't even public. But they even though there's not concrete like actual evidence, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So right now he is in prison, and that's due to what he was criticizing. You know, he was criticizing the current prime minister for having close ties with China. That was the most recent thing that he was working on, to criticize the current prime minister of Mongolia. And so and then he got, you know, he got caught. And but Mongolia is an independent country, a democratic country. And what I made clear on Sarah's show is that Mongolia is when you look at the world map like that. If you look at the world map, Mongolia is in the middle, like it's surrounded by Russia and China. So basically, that's like the authoritarian land around there. And then Mongolia is floating there like a little democratic island. So that's where Mongolia is, and people on our side, those who are on the free world side, we have to protect Mongolia. And on her show, of course, like what Moon Hebayao been working on is the rights in southern Mongolia, like which you may know by the autonomous region of China, though, like the southern Mongolia. So they call it like Inner Mongolia. Inner, by China's definition, is the border that they have drawn, and so that's inside of their border that they drew. So yes, that's what it means. But anyway, so yeah, I got on her show and I got to talk about what we yeah, about the case. And also she posted on YouTube too, right? Like it's a podcast and also a YouTube video. And on the YouTube video, in the YouTube video, she gave a long introduction to let Americans know what it means that he got arrested and sentenced. So, as an example to compare, she was mentioning about my the close friend of my husband and I, who we no longer talk to in Hong Kong, Andy Chan Ho Tin. He was the Hong Kong National, well, what was the name? Hong Kong National Party. I forget the party name, but he's the founder of this pro-independence party of Hong Kong, and he was such a charismatic, amazing political leader of the young people in Hong Kong. And we were very close, and he was even traveling around, to coming to Japan and South Korea. But one day he got arrested too, like arbitrarily arrested, because he just, like, the one case that I like, he experienced arrest a few times, but one time he wanted to come to Japan to attend CPAC in Japan, and he got caught, arrested for no reason. Just the CCP wanted to stop him, and then they even called his dad, to stop him. And that's a bad situation, if they have the number of your parents and threaten you through them. That's like the worst one, that you realize that they are in danger as well by the actions that you take. So, like, really awful cases have been happening like that's. But I'm not surprised, after my friends going through all this things. Yeah. Anyway, I should, before I forget, I should get back to where's. I wish that this service would let me just look at the super chat comments only. Sorry for not reacting to your. Okay, so Yukio Mishima, he's very, very still famous, and people respect him, and he was what, how could I summarize him? But he was just looking way ahead of time. He was such a charismatic writer, but then and also he didn't have a strong body, so that's why he built up his muscles and so on. And so for that, he's very artsy and so on, like very expressive and so on too. So that's amazing. And as for like after the war, he was the first, basically, like he's a symbol of, the the figure to us that he wanted to revise our constitution and have our military, and that we have to fight, because if we keep living like this, then the Japanese people will not have a heart anymore as a Japanese, like not Japanese spirit. So and and then he obviously he uh, claimed he declared all this his agenda, and then because he was super Japanesey, and also I think that it's his political way of expression, to make it big and also meaningful. He did harakiri, like seppuku or whatever you call it, like it, and yeah, so that's why still like he becomes controversial too, like was his way of expression good and so on. And at the same time though, he was super duper smart and intellectual, so the leftists at the time were so logical, like reading about all this difficult like philosophical books from overseas, like Western culture. But Mishima was very very sophisticated too, so they could have a discussion together actually. So there are footage of that too, so that's really amazing. Yeah. If my husband may answer, yeah. Unfortunately though, according to my husband, the Japanese conservatives today are not very much interested in Mishima. Like like conservatives in Japan today don't study about the past so much. They're just concerned about what's happening today. So it's not like conservative, you know what I mean? So like they don't study. So they're just only interested in what's available on YouTube or Twitter. Mm. But those are who are enthusiastically conservative, very hardcore conservative people. Every time, so Mishima took his own life, and that's that date is October 25th. So every year in my hometown Fukuoka and Tokyo, there are events, to commemorate his death. So yeah, that's how it is. Yes. And Eric, thank you so much for another super chat. Many Republicans are now talking about designating Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. It makes sense to me, but what about Chinese companies selling them the precursors, major ingredients? Yeah, I heard about fentanyl, and the death toll is rising. This toll, yeah. And but my take of that, like you're probably mentioning about the 4 people that were kidnapped by Mexicans in Mexico, like 4 Americans and 2 are dead, right? and then that is just symbolizing the problems with Mexico to Americans. But at the same time, yes, that's a problem. And I realized that that's another front that the US has to fight, and Americans, like my impression, like I don't want to say negative things about Americans, but my impression is that Americans get easily distracted. So like one day it's Russia, one day it's China, one day it's Mexico, or one day it's Afghanistan or Iran. So like they get like, oh ha, 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 right? And but that's how I guess each country is, like it's not probably not because they are Americans, and the same for Japan too. But what that makes me realize is the opposite thing, meaning that when I think about CCP, because I like the threat is right there to Japanese people, right? Like the CCP is expanding and it's coming to us. To the next is Taiwan and Japan. So when I look at like how America is, like on our side, I think about our enemy, China, and I realized that Tibet, Uyghur, Southern Mongolia, Hong Kong, they are now colonized by CCP. But if you have problems like that, like with Mexico right there, right? Like if the US has issues with Mexico, then people's attention goes there, and then I know that the US will not leave that problem uh as it is, like Biden administration has not worked on issues with Mexico. They still have the borders open, so that's the bottom cause of this, I believe. And Biden administration might not solve the problem, but what I'm saying is that, like, if there's the issue and if it's exposed, then the administration has to work on it, right? And that's same for CCP, because CCP, of course, Xi Jinping is the top, and there are 7 people on as a top of China. But there are lots of like factions and so on, and they are always having power struggles. And so when there's another problem like at their border, like Tibet will be bigger than Mongolia or Hong Kong or maybe Taiwan or Japan, then they get distracted and they has to put resources into the battle there. So that's something that we need to do. We have to divide them. So that's, I realize, like, oh, this case, that's bad for the US. But at the same time, I'm just realizing the political dynamics, like what happens when things like this happens. And I'm like, oh, we can use this, against our enemies. But yeah, but of course, like China's problems are there when it comes to drugs. And I think that China knows well, because they have the history of what you call that in English, opium war, the first opium war. So yeah, so they have that, and so they probably are familiar with that. And yes, anyway, thank you for your super chat and amazing question. Oh, another super chat. Sorry for not taking like regular comments, just making sure those who pay get answers. Thank you for super chat. What's your thoughts on right-wing Americans looking to move to Japan, Korea, and Thailand, since the West is overly leftist and no signs of changing? Are there right wings like that? Are you sure they are right wings? Because I feel like right wings and conservatives wouldn't want to leave their homeland. My friend in Hong Kong, who I no longer talk to, Andy Chan in Hong Kong, I told him to just escape from Hong Kong so that he survives and he can do activities from the outside of Hong Kong, right? But he wouldn't listen to me, because she just has to be there because he's a proud Hong Konger, right? Like that's where he belongs, and he just was so proud. And same for me, actually. Like, I even just to take a trip to overseas, it breaks my heart. Like, I don't want to leave my country. Even like Tokyo is fine, but like when I travel around, even here in Japan, like I need to be here. My sense is that I need to be here. Like it's a kind of connected to the land that I was born and raised in, if you know what I mean. And I guess that's just how conservative or patriots are. And but anyway, but let's say that you want to move. I think I don't think that everybody will move to another country. So if they do actually come here, in the to Asia, then that's a good opportunity for new things. That what we need, especially on the right side, globally, is the connections and solidarity. So if we have more and more connections on many different layers, and if they are broad, then that makes our battle better for us, that we get stronger that way. The reason why I do all these activities against CCP and I get to be more and more powerful here, it's because I have friends, in and outside of Japan. And it's like from over here in Japan, I have friends with like National Diet members or local politicians and media people, activist people, um all these business people. Like I know different kinds of people, mostly coming from my husband's connection. But and also we have lots of friends in the world coming from different countries, from Asia, from Africa, from the West. And it's different, like from liberals to conservatives. And that's why we are uh, you know we function better and we do things more smoothly and efficiently. So that's the move that we need. That's what I was talking to Sarah about too towards the end of the podcast on her show. And so that's, I think it's not bad. At the same time, though, of course, like you should try to you know make your country better first. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you look at it like that. And another, a lot of us see America as a sinking ship and dying. Yeah, but Americans fight. Like Americans love to fight. Like revolution type of blood is there in their veins. That's how I see. But and yeah, you just have to pick the right war, though, the right battle. Oh, important comment I missed. You look elegant as always. Thank you. I try. Sorry, I hi, hello. Sorry, just reacting now. Hello, hello. Yes, free to bird. Yes. Hi, Yoko-san. Hello. Howdy. My husband had written hello too. Yay, husband. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. The CCP wants to liberate Japan from US occupation. What the hell? Doesn't make sense at all. I don't get it. Oh, super chat. Do I see a super chat? Why? Oh, thank you for your super chat. ROK and Siam are way further left than the US. No serious US Republican would want to flee their home and live there. I think it's just that person. Yeah, I was talking about fentanyl, 70,000 dead in US last year alone. Yeah, that's like that death, the number of death is like a war level, or like natural disaster, more than natural disaster, right? Like, how many could die from a disaster? Like hundreds, maybe? It's 70,000. That's a lot of people. Do you think that it depends on the area? I mean, it's important to just to cut the supply, but it's crazy, man. For Japan, I know that there are some problems, with drug over here in Japan too, but not as intense as America. Like, there's no comparison that you can make. Like, it's so different. And it's obviously that your neighboring country and China just does anything that they can. Like, they don't care in what way. And so another reason that I want to talk to Americans about all the CCP problems is because, like Americans are, of course, America is such a huge country. The US is such a huge country, and people know that, of course, when your country is big, there are many problems, and many things to consider in the world. But so when you think about all the problems, you tend to think about your country alone. But CCP has this strategy. They have their dream, like they literally say that publicly. They have the dream to rebuild their empire, right? And the empire is so big that they even said in 2008, if I remember correctly, that they want to divide the Pacific Ocean, and they want to conquer up to Hawaii. And America thought that it was a joke, right? At first. But that's just how wild they are. That's how bad CCP is. And look at what they're doing in the South China Sea. They are building artificial islands and militarizing the islands to use as a military base. And they're using that actually. Also, they do all this investigation in the sea to see the resources that they can steal, and they do that. They are thinking in the world map, like really in a huge way. So in order to do that, they do all this elite capture, like take over the leader of organizations and so on, or national no, for you it's congressman. And remember, there was some spy in some offices in the US, like congressman offices, and they do that. And economically, they use forced labor, using Uyghur people and all these people that are in under their colonization. And yeah, and also militarily they expand, and just they don't care about the international laws, and illegally try to occupy. We have this territorial disputes with China in Senkaku Islands in the south, near Okinawa Prefecture, and they're coming in like every day they're trying to take over that island, our territory of Japan. But they are trying so hard to steal the islands from us, so that our territory would shrink, and theirs would expand. And they want just to expand their colony. And then now the drug, and then remember the balloons coming into the US. That was coming to Japan too. We at least have 3 or 4 cases that we know, like from recent years. And the Confucius Institute, and the police stations in the world, hundreds of them. In Japan, there are 2 or so, Nagoya and Tokyo, or in Fukuoka, so 3, I think. So all these things are happening, and not to. Oh, of course, the US is the main target, right? Like if you beat your biggest competition, then you become the leader. But they are doing that as a strategy. Like they are, I don't know why, but they're so good at. I have to compliment them for that. They have a good strategy for them. They're very strategic. They're good at that, I must admit. And so, but they are doing all this thing not randomly, but because they have all this, what the dream that they have, and it's based on that, and we shouldn't ignore. Whew, I'm talking a lot, man. Today I have an appointment. I need to, man, I'm such in a work mode today. Thank you for your super chat. I really appreciate all these comments too. Let's see, go back a little bit, and let's see. Any, just looking through the comments to see. Anime helped with your image. Really? Interesting. Can't stay and play. I'm working tonight. That's good that you were working. Work. Yoko, I have seen and heard cases of Western white leftists who are pro-CCP and anti-Japanese visiting your country anyway for your tourism. What is your opinion of this? Western leftists who are pro-CCP and anti-Japanese? Isn't that rare though? Because leftists of the West usually just love anything. from overseas, aside from their own culture. They're just they are like a masochist. Like they just want to self torture them. Like they want to torture themselves. So whatever foreign is cool to them. Hmm. But I must say that liberals, especially, they care so much about the human rights. So, and CCP knows it. So for decades, if it actually started even before the World War II, but CCP, or I mean the communists in China, they have been using all these historical disputes to attack Japan. That they create this image when they talk that Japan is the bad guy, torturing all these other people in all these people in other Asian countries. So basically like a big bully in Asia. That's Japan. That's the picture that CCP or communists in general they want to depict. And then liberals in the West, they hear that they want to save all these people that are oppressed, so they don't check what CCP is saying, and they don't, sometimes they don't even know, like, because all these historical disputes are often the theme is South Korea and Japan. So they the Westerners don't mean bad, they want to just help. They want to help all these victims, but they don't check the facts. And they are coming from the human rights perspective, and they say they believe that Japan is the bad guy, but that's the trap. Of course there are complications always in wars and so on. Things are chaotic, but what matters politically is if the government at the time gave an order like that to, let's say, for example, to drag all these Korean women to war, to use them as a sex slave. There's no such evidence of that. There's no history of that. And for Japan, and all the CCP and those who are pro North Korean people in Asia, they say that. Wait, my mind just skipped a little bit. Sorry, it happens every time. Yeah, they blame Japan, but we are not. It's not like that. You need to always collect all the data. Man, I really hate it when like my mind, like my brain always, like all of a sudden it just skips sometimes. Concentration. Weird. South Korea has the lowest birth rate and the highest suicide rate in the world. Yeah. It's worse than Japan. Japan is always like bullied by the media. But but yeah. ハロー、ようこさん、配信してくれてありがとうございます。こちらこそありがとうございます。Thank you so much for coming. $2, my husband say. Yeah. What happened to the LGBT stuff from last week? Oh, I don't hear that about that. Let me check. LGBT, I don't know how to. Let's go. Is there any development? なんか変わった？なんもないよね、進展。Yeah, it's rather that they are saying that there's no like why. I just saw the article title saying like why in Japan it doesn't proceed. Huh? So after the gaffe by the ex-aide to Kishida, we've been having all this controversy on LGBT. It's not Q is included somehow. It's LGBT law that our national DAI members want to push. Especially Kishida wants to push that show to the people here that he is not discriminative, and especially G7 is coming up in May in Hiroshima, Japan. So Kishida wants to have a good look to the Western nations. But no, and I see all this like national Dime members and opinion leaders discussing on it, but we don't see any um, anything proceeding at this point. That's good, right? AOC even came here, like she attended a meeting here with our national Dime members, and she commented that Japan needs to advance our LGBTQ thing. Who is she, though, to us? Isn't Japan the only ones to have beat China in war? Is it? Maybe. Like, I'm not a history person, but it might be. Yeah. It's what's interesting about CCP today or China today is that it's Han Chinese when you look at their ethnicity. Mm. Mm. Oh, Vietnam won against China, my husband says, in the 70s. So after the Vietnam War, they have problems in between, but it's a small war. And the Vietnam is so strong. Likeアメリカにも勝ったんだよね。そうSo Vietnam won against the US and then China. Uh, 誰が if you look at the history in a long way, then China lost many times. But the problem is that today it's Han Chinese, and I think it's the first time that when we refer to Chinese people, it's like let's say is it Confucius? Those who were great back in the day from China. That's a different ethnicity. Isn't that weird when you think about it? What is your opinion of Natsuo Yamaguchi? Oh, Natsuo. Good guy or bad? He seems soft spoken. He is really, 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 really bad. He's so professional and so like elegant, and he's so like in a way like eloquent, like Obama. Very like a kind of sophisticated kind of look and soft tone, soft spoken voice, and like you like him instantly, right? Like the impression is good, but what he's doing is bad because he really loves China, and the China that he is depicting is probably from like a long time ago and not really CCP. I don't know if he understands what CCP is up to today, and what they aims to do. Like it's the party that he's leading, Komeito, the governing party. He says like the party is supposed to say it's their slogan that they listen to small voices, and they never hear that. All these voices are coming from Tibet, Uyghurs, Southern Mongolia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, or even like Cambodia or Vietnam. People are raising their voice, and they are the victims of CCP today. And Natsuo Yamaguchi never listens to voices like that because the ties that he has with CCP is what is special about himself, Mr. Yamaguchi. Right. Like if you're good in a good relationship with another country, like politicians tend to brag about it. or it's basically their legacy. So fentanyl deaths break my heart. Yeah, it's scary. What, like, America? I want to. I love the U.S., but like some regions are very scary. I must say. Almost an hour. I have to go. No. Um, what is Japan's mainstream media like? Here in Brazil, the media is totally dominated by the left wing. Same here too. For Japan, our historical background is, as I repeatedly explained, we lost the World War II and we were occupied for several years. And during that time, there was press code, and which said that the media can't criticize South Korea or China or the US. So basically, we can't talk bad about other countries. We can only talk about bad about our own country. So that's the narrative, you know. And even after the occupation period was over, we, like, Japanese people are all about customs, and it's so hard for us to get out of our cycle, and so like everything becomes a tradition. So the media kept going on with that policy, I think. And especially because you know, during the occupation period, also what happened was that 200,000 officials of Japan were purged. Like, they were officially purged, so they lost their jobs. You know, patriots lost their jobs. So what was left? Who those who were still, you know, able to keep working, were they had to be anti-Japan to, you know, keep working. So that's the background. But at least in Japan, our internet conservative side is stronger than the left. So young people tend to, you know, be on the right side. So that's why Shinzo Abe, our former prime minister, during his time, we lowered the voting rate, no, voting rights age, like voting age. So now 18, those who are 18s or over 18s, they can vote. Mm. Drug abuse is a sign of a larger problem, though. Yes, that's very correct, I think. Yeah. And I think that the biggest problem in the US, I feel, is the family values, you know, like it's changing here too. So like Japan is becoming a little bit similar, but I feel like Japan is a bit different for some reason. Like, I don't know why. Like, it must have something to do with our culture. But the first thing that comes to my mind when I look at the US, oh, super chat, is that the divorce and step parents, that's very different from here. The culture is different somehow, and even though people are more and more divorced here, and you know, some people get married again and so on, but you know, in order to numb the pain, people tend to go to drug in America for some reason. That's very interesting. Hope you and your husband have a great afternoon. See you next time. Thank you so much. I like you. I like how you're punctual. more more punctual than me. I'm like, yeah, I should go soon and blah blah blah. It's so, I can tell that you're so good at your job, Eric. Because like, isn't it interesting that, like, yeah, you can just tell. Thank you, Eric, says my husband. 家族の価値は常に低い. Yes. And that's sad because when you look at like Christian families, they really value family so much. Like yeah, like my I have to say that I was influenced by like a liberal side of the US when I started to have interest in English and started to learn about America. But and when I first began to learn about conservatives and their culture, like Christian culture and so on, I first had the impression like, oh, maybe it's a little too tight and like not much freedom and so on. But then the more I learned, the more I realized like how beautiful it is, you know. And there are even like YouTubers today that are Christians, bringing, for example, the one that I used to watch was she's Christian, and she wants to live her life in a conservative way. That it's there's this like the she enjoys the mysterious women, you know, like doesn't show her skin so much because her clothing are very conservative and like so basically long, like one piece or something. And it's very elegant. And you know, and also she cleans her house every day, of course, and um cooks very good. Like, and also the things that she buys are from the local store, and then often second used stuff and so on. And when I looked at that sort of like a natural kind of like a local community based life, I'm like, oh, that's America, you know. So that was very interesting to see. Random Yoko, another problem is children left behind growing up. It's surprising how many parents don't have interest in how their kids grow, just send off to school. Take care. Ah, yeah. I guess, yeah, the bottom cause might be the individualism. So that's what's great about Americans. You know, people are independent. But over here in Japan, it's very common to live with your parents until you get married. So even after you become adults, like in like Americans, you know, it's a shame, you know, if you stay with your parents like in your in your parents' house basement or something, right? Not here. Not here. That's Ah, man, it's so deep though. Like we need to have this deep talk one day about the culture in America and how it's different from here and what we can learn from each other. Okay. You're gonna cry if I believe that's interesting. German media still has much CIA control. Interesting. Oh man. Sorry, didn't get to read everything today, especially, but I really appreciate super chats though. It lets me live, you know, financially. Of course, inflation is here. Things are very expensive, and my income is limited because I want to be free, right? Because I do political activities in politics. You never know when you're needed, and so I'm not employed or anything. So the Mongolians defeated and ruled China for centuries. Yes, 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 that's true. Yeah, America's out and yeah, true. Mongolians, yes, Mongolian Empire. That was huge. But Russia also wants to rebuild their empire. So this like, what is wrong with land countries and their obsession with empire? Maybe we need to drill the lands to make them float on the ocean so that they will be more like more soft. It's not that China is good at strategy, America is declining at everything. But you know, at least like it's interesting how like the American people the impression that I get from Americans become like it changed over time, like I used to think, especially because judging from the Americans here, they are liberals and they're self-centered and they leave really bad impression. But like I talk to you guys and I also meet a lot of people, with CPAC or elsewhere, and I talk to American people today, and I realize that Americans are really, really good people. I know it's bad. I know it sounds bad, but like I like it's interesting, that I used to think that maybe like there's a barrier forever, even though I love America. Like it's like maybe I keep, maybe I'm looked down on, or maybe I can't be on the same level, or whatever like that. But I realized that American people are really like big hearted, and you are willing to listen and learn about other countries, and you have respect for other countries. And yeah, it's probably normal, but that was not apparent to us outsiders. So that's really good, Yeah. We are not all about many of that. Yeah, that's interesting. Selfishness is not individualism. They are different. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yes. Anyway, I need to go. You two have fun. Yes, I will. I have a work appointment though at night today. So I still have to work. But I need to work on my gaming skill too. Hopefully I have a time to play today. Okay. Are there parts of Japan that are more leftist than others? Cities are like urban areas are more liberal, or it's not liberal, it's just not conservative. But countryside or rural, it's not rural, like a suburb area, it's all conservative. Yes. Yes, I realize that now. Americans travelers are very different. Yes, yes, yes. So it's stay Yoko, we need you. Thank you so much though. Sorry that the time was way later than I'm supposed to, but I'm really thankful that you guys came regardless. And this is a weekly live stream, so let's reunite again next week. Yes, I should be all available. Yes, yes. So next week, purple hair. Yeah, next week let's get together again and talk more. Yes. And in the meantime, please think about the questions or any topic that you want to talk about together. I really enjoy these conversations with you. Thank you so much, and make sure you subscribe to this channel and also following me on Twitter at randomyoko. Okay. Okay, you guys have a good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. ありがとうございます。じゃあねー。Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Have a good night. Bye.